Next time you're, sipping a cocktail on a Greek beach, you might want to consider that your vacation is actually subsidized by currency derivatives.
Right, and corporate bets against Middle Eastern geopolitics.
Exactly. So, welcome to today's deep dive into a March 16th, 2026 financial update from East Value Research. We're looking at the Polish travel operator Rainbow Tours.
And our mission here is to really uncover how macroeconomics, sudden global shocks, and aggressive currency fluctuations are quietly pulling the strings behind your summer vacation.
Because if you look at their Q3 2025 numbers, Rainbow Tours is completely ignoring the broader economic anxieties out there. I mean, they beat EBITDA estimates by up to 42.6%.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is a massive beat.
Right. They're commanding higher prices, leaning heavily on newly renovated hotels in Greece. But the real play, the thing we need to talk about, is regional expansion.
Yeah, they recently acquired a 70% stake in Romania's parallel of 45. And, on paper, absorbing those upfront capital costs to integrate a massive foreign network, it hurts short-term cash flow.
Sure, that makes sense.
But strategically, it's just a highly calculated land grab.
Which makes perfect sense when you look at Eastern European travel spending. It's almost like this compressed spring. Like in Germany, household travel budgets are already fully extended at about 6.1% of income.
Right, they're pretty tacked out.
Exactly. But Poland is coiled really tight at just 3%, and Romania is barely engaged at 1.7%. So Rainbow Tours is deliberately taking that short-term margin hit in Romania precisely so they are the ones holding the spring when consumer habits eventually catch up to Western Europe.
Well, the entire thesis relies on a stable macroeconomic environment to let that spring uncoil, right? But the first quarter of 2026 delivered a pretty immediate, sharp geopolitical shock.
Yeah, things got complicated fast.
Very. Looking strictly at the facts reported in the brief, the U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran in late February caused a sudden freeze in March bookings.
So I have to ask, how does the conflict in the Middle East directly bleed into a European travel agency's balance sheet? Like, what is the actual operational cascade there?
It's severe. It's not just a matter of lost bookings. Rainbow Tours had to scramble to repatriate over 1,200 clients from the Middle East.
Wow, 1,200.
Yeah, and using alternative, highly inefficient routes. So that's an immediate, totally unbudgeted cash burn. And while they're burning cash on emergency flights, the macro environment just completely turns against them.
Because global jet fuel spot prices spiked, right?
Yeah.
To the highest levels since 2022.
Exactly. Directly because of the regional instability. And simultaneously, capital flight to safe havens weakened the Polish zloty against both the euro and the dollar.
So their operational costs like fuel and foreign hotel contracts are surging in hard currency right when their domestic revenue stream takes a hit.
Right. But that vulnerability is where their corporate risk management changes the narrative. Rainbow Tours aggressively hedges both their foreign exchange exposure and their jet fuel costs.
Oh, interesting. So they lock it all in early.
Yes. By locking in fuel and currency contracts quarters in advance, they effectively insulated their Q1 and upcoming summer margins from those sudden spot price surges. It's actually why their summer 2026 pre-bookings are somehow still up 10.9% in Poland.
Wait, really? Even with all the chaos?
Yeah, because they aren't forced to pass that massive geopolitical premium onto the consumer.
Okay, but I have to push back a little here. That 10.9% bump feels incredibly fragile when you realize Turkey and Egypt account for, I think, 45 to 55% of their annual revenue.
Yeah, that's a huge chunk of their business.
Right, and hedges only protect your margins on trips that actually happen. If this conflict drags past May and demand for the Eastern Mediterranean just drops to zero, those derivative contracts won't save their balance sheet.
No, you're totally right. And the analysts at East Value Research absolutely factor in that duration risk. The threat of a prolonged conflict is exactly why they slightly lowered Rainbow Tours' target price to 210 zloty.
But they still maintained a BUY rating, didn't they?
They did. Because the underlying mechanism here is margin resilience. Rainbow Tours has structurally prioritized profitability over market share.
Ah, as opposed to a competitor like TUI Poland.
Exactly. TUI relies heavily on aggressive, high-volume, low-margin pricing just to fill capacity. So when a geopolitical shock compresses demand, TUI has no margin cushion.
But Rainbow Tours can absorb the volume hit and still actually turn a profit.
You got it. That's the core of their advantage.
So for you listening, booking a simple beach holiday actually means participating in a highly complex web of corporate risk management and FX hedging.
It's a delicate balancing act,
hmm
finding growth in untapped regions while constantly guarding against global volatility.
Definitely. Which leaves you with this provocative thought to kind of mull over. If geopolitical conflicts permanently disrupt major travel corridors across the Middle East and Asia, will global tour operators eventually exhaust their supply of quote unquote safe destinations?
That is a really fascinating question.
Right. Are we slowly, artificially capping the entire travel industry's global growth, not because of economics, but simply because there are just fewer safe places left on the map?